So I'm so excited for my next guest, which is Chris James. He's joining us on the Sales Made Simple podcast. So lovely to have you here, Chris.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm hyped up. Love sales. Been in the industry for a while, so hopefully we can have a good convo. I'm sure we will.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't want to I've spent a bit of time with you, and like you've got some absolute golden nuggets in there that I know my audience are going to absolutely benefit from. So don't hold anything back. Just yeah, tell us it as it is. I've actually been part of Chris's group of content to clients, and he's absolute direct brutality sometimes is exactly the tonic that people need to get out of their own head and just start doing the things that we need to do to make sales. So yeah, if you can like distill some of that down into this, that would be fantastic.
Oh yeah, we can give some brutal advice, I'm sure.
So first of all, just give us a little recap of how you ended up in the sales industry. Like, what was your first sales job, and how did you get to where you were now?
By mistake, complete
Yeah.
mistake. I just needed a job. I didn't know what I was doing. I just came and got a job because someone introed me to a company, and it was selling print advertising for local councils, something or other. I can't even remember. So it's pretty hardcore. 100+ calls a day. Then I went to another call center, 220 calls a day, and you kind of cut your teeth on the environment and experience you get there. Build a bit of a backbone, and then went to a slightly less intense job where there was more money and I was allowed to sort of be myself, and then ended up working at a marketing agency again, cold approaching people and trying to get them to buy, and I ended up doing really, really well. And that was selling content. So I've gone from like B2B sales to B2B content sales in an agency to then just going, you know what, I'm going to do my own thing again by accident. And here we are, like 2.5 years after quitting my job, and it's crazy.
Yeah, fantastic. I absolutely love that. And I think a lot of people go into sales either by accident or
Mm.
because sometimes I see it as like they think it's an easy ride, like it's an easy job. And yeah, we all chuckle at that when people say that. I'm like, there's nothing is easy about it. And
Hardest
so
sport in the world, right?
yeah. But when you crack it, it's actually really fulfilling. I love it. And I love teaching people about how to like see something different in how they come across and how they sell, because that's the beauty of it. It suddenly just doesn't feel pushy or aggressive or weird. And I think people often think they have to modify themselves to be a salesperson.
Mm.
You have like an image of a salesperson in your head, like that car salesman, briefcase, like all that kind of stuff. And those days are gone. I think we've got over like the FUD, the fear and uncertainty, and all that kind of stuff that we had in the 80s, 90s, and we're starting to see a little bit more consultative selling coming through. What's your kind of sales style?
I'm very like personal with it and pretty chilled. I'll I don't push people, but I will challenge their thinking a lot of the time, especially when it comes to investing in something like what we offer. There is a certain attitude. You have to call people out on the shit, essentially, because people tell themselves a lot of shit. And it's my job, I believe, as a salesperson, to ask them hard questions that challenge that thinking. So it's almost like you play the role of a coach, whether you're a coach or not. If you're trying to sell to someone, you play that role. So my style's very relaxed, very jokey. I like to make people feel at ease, and I think humor is a great way to do that. But I also will get into the seriousness and address any. If someone's telling themselves a lie, like I will do it. I've had people like cry on calls because it's just been like, oh my god, I've never thought about it this way, like,
Mm,
and that kind of thing. That's just on a sales call. So yeah, my style, I don't know if it's a bit different or not. It's very permission based. I want to make sure people are happy and boxes are ticked either consciously or unconsciously before we kind of move to the next stage. And it's the same in the lead gen phase
mm,
as well. It's like you don't need to be that, like you said, Matilda's dad, old
mm.
like car salesman, used car salesman with the briefcase and the tweed jacket and all that shit.
Yeah, yeah. No, I love that. Absolutely. And I think, I'm not sure if I cried on our sales call, but it was definitely an emotional call. I remember it. Um,
Mm.
yeah. And I remember coming in actually thinking, I'm not sure if I need this or not. I think I'm all right. I think my offer's pretty good. And then within about 10 minutes, I was like, my offer's pretty shit. I need to do some work on it. Hang on a second. Like, I definitely need some work on that. And I need some work on this. And oh my God, if I want to get there. So, like, the conversation was very transformational. And I think that's irrelevant if anyone went on to buy or not. I always like try and teach, think what they're going to get, even if they were going to be a no. Like, what value can you give them that's highly valuable for them, irrelevant of if they become a paid client or not? And
Yeah.
I think that's the difference between, like, when you can't hear a no, you can only hear a yes, then you're like, I've got to hear a yes. They've got to be yeses. Like, I just can't bear it if people are no's. And then that's when it becomes, for me, that's where I see pushy coming in a little bit, where it's like it's really out of alignment because you just haven't done the work to hear a no, you know. So, yeah, really interesting stuff. So, what are the things in your eyes, like maybe the top three or four things that you see fuck people's sales up? Like, if it's going to be effed up royally, what is it that's going to eff it up?
You can F up the sale long before like the sales scenario happens, I think. So a lot
Yeah,
of people will come to us and they'll go, "Oh, I'm not. I want your help because I'm not getting any sales, or maybe it's leads, but typically it's like I'm not making enough money." And then I'll always just like trying to flowchart shit in my head, like, "Okay, so you're not getting enough money, or you're making enough money. That means you're either not selling enough, or your price isn't high enough, and it's usually a combination of both." So low pricing, bear it like believe it or not, having a low price doesn't mean that the sale is easier, which is a massive misconception that people have. I would actually like rather pay someone £1,000 to do something and £100 to do something because the higher price tag kind of almost like guarantees, not in a way, but like guarantees or certainly gives a perception of higher quality. So that's one thing for me. The other is obviously not selling enough. And if you're not selling enough, it's again two things: you're not converting enough, or actually most of the time you're actually just not got enough opportunity to sell. So it's
yeah.
not a sales problem, it's not a conversion problem, it
Mm-hmm.
is a lead problem, which
Mm-hmm.
is a marketing problem, essentially. So then you look, you go, okay, it's not a getting money problem. It's not even a converting problem. It's actually getting the opportunities in the first place. So let's look at the marketing. What are you actually doing to generate leads? How many calls do you have each week? You know, how do you get those calls? That kind of thing. And then a lot of the time it will be, okay, just give me full clarity on what it is you sell and how you like position yourself in your marketing. And that is typically what falls flat. So a lot of the time, all these problems come from first principles, which are you can't convey what you do and how it helps the certain type of audience or person or business that you sell to. And
Yeah.
that's where it all stems from the fucking offer. And offer creation as itself is a science.
Yeah, it's an actual like formula, a formulation of like things that need to be stacked and things that need to be in play. Like I say,
Yeah.
I thought my offer was pretty good. And then once I've done this work, I am able to like show up with like a different nuanced level of certainty because I know why things are the way they are and I know how to convey it properly. And now I can like help people do that. But do you
Yeah.
know, I was doing some training yesterday locally and there was six businesses in that training and we were training on having like a four-figure offer, and all of them, when I said about what result do you deliver, went into this Oscar winning like bloody thing all around the houses about, well, it's this and then it's that, and it's like we get 6 sessions and then like they have WhatsApp support and like we do it this way because like we really want to be honest and we want to pride ourselves on da da da. And I was like, stop, like just stop. What does all that give them? What's the result? And not one out of the six could tell me what result they delivered for their client. And it's frightening when you look at it. But it's, if you look at all the marketing, even bigger companies that you think you guys should have your shit together, some
Mm.
of the bigger companies can't do it either. And I find tech especially, like some of the stuff, do you want your M5 data stack to do? I'm like, I don't even know what one of them is, like what's that? So like we really do miss the mark massively on that, like massively.
Oh
So
yeah.
for me, I love the fact that you talk about that because it's like the fundamental thing that when you work back, it comes from like, why does this offer exist? A lot of people like to just throw offers out, don't they? Just to be like, well, that plugs that gap there. We need a low value offer, a high value offer. Each offer for me is like a mini business that you've got to learn how to sell and market. So
Love that.
for me, you just start off with one high value one, because if you want big money, again, high value is going to get you there, unless you want a volume driven model. Um, and like learn how to sell that over and over again, and then you can play with the other stuff around it. But I find people play with all the other stuff and then try and sell high value, and it's so much harder to go up that way. Like,
Yeah.
what do
Massively.
you see that as well?
I'm a big advocate for having one like 4 5 figure offer.
Yeah.
Because, like you say, you only need to sell one. But if it's £100 offer, you might need to sell 100 of them to
Mm,
get to 10k. Whereas if it's a 5k offer, you need to sell two. And again, people don't buy because stuff is low priced. Some of the time they will, but again, it's all about not having split focus in 10 different directions. And what I try and help people do is put together a master offer where, yeah, it's made up of loads of mini offers, but you sell it a number of times first, and then you can strip out certain bits and go, right, I can do a 1 day in person, or I can just sell a course, or I'm doing an event, or you get access to a masterclass that I'm running, or whatever it is. That kind of thing works really well, but it still doesn't detract from the one offer that is at one price point, that is for one audience, and you're selling it in one specific way, solving one specific problem.
yeah, love it. So, if somebody is really struggling with the result that they deliver, and they're like, God, yeah, I don't think I can explain what I do, what's the best way of getting them to start looking at this so that they can start to answer that?
Just ask the question why 5 times to yourself or your clients. I think it's a really easy way. Like, get a client on the phone who is one of your best clients, not just in terms of they've gone and got the result, but they're also likable. There's a good vibe fit. They're like coachable, whether you're a coach or not. And also they've got like, they're open minded, basically. And then you can ask them, okay, why did you buy? Where were you before you bought?
Mm,
Like, what was the process like, and what problems did it solve for you, and what does it look like now? So the BDA, I call it, the before,
yeah,
during, after. Stack those things up, and then you will find a lot of answers just by speaking to the ideal clients. And the reason you go to the ideal clients first rather than some lower performing ones, I also mean like they pay on time and all these qualities that you would class as an ideal client. Once you've got that information and it comes from these people, you can take that, and there will be so many other people who are the exact same person on paper or in business or in life as that ideal client. And it means your messaging is then going to be transferable to those exact ideal clients, rather than the clients who might not be like paying on time, or they might be a
mm,
little bit less coachable, they don't show up, they're not organized, whatever it is. So go to two or three, and that's probably all you need of your past clients or existing clients who are ideal, and ask those questions and go, what and why and how could you improve it? And all of that is just going to give you an idea. But ultimately, I find that people buy things, especially B2B, because it gives them, they're buying peace of mind, and they're buying more money or more time or less stress. Pretty much.
yeah,
They're
yeah,
buying less stress
yeah.
in the long term.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. When you break anything down and distill it, it's the vagueness I find. You know, when people are like, oh, I just help SMEs be more productive or profitable. Like the S to the E is huge. You're talking about someone like me, like a sole, like, well, limited company, but you know, like one person, all
Mm,
the way through to like an enterprise like Nike or Coca Cola or something, or you know, like you're talking about huge. Like even if they've all got the same problem of like need more sales, they're going to think and talk about their problem completely different on that spectrum. So like
mm.
it's really getting into like how do they think and feel and talk about what's happening for them. And the best people to ask, like you say, are your audience and the people, your clients. So everybody's sat on that already. So that is a great exercise that Chris has just walked you through. Like if you're listening and you're thinking, I don't really know what result I deliver or why it's valuable or why people want to pay me today, that's going to have a really detrimental impact on any action you take if you've got those thoughts attached to it. So go out and start asking and getting the answers to it. And immediately you'll start showing up, even just writing content, thinking about those people and what they've said. It's going to be so much more compelling. You're going to have so much more conviction in what you're saying. And that
That's
is
what
going
the
to
word I
command
just wrote
people.
down, Helen, on
Oh,
my
did
pad
you?
was the word conviction in massive letters. And I think
Yeah,
most people don't have that. So that's a big error that I see.
yeah,
However, when you do like research and have conversations and you get reminded like, oh shit, I am actually pretty good at what I do and it really does solve problems, then you can be like, show up with a lot more conviction as well. And
Yeah.
it's like, you know what it's like when you get in that slump of not being able to sell for a bit. I'm sure you've been there multiple times. I know I have. And it's just like,
Hmm.
I can't sell. I'm shit. You start questioning yourself. Um, that is, it's no, it's the opposite of obviously being on a high where everyone you speak to just wants to give you money. Cause I'm sure you've been there like quite a few
Yeah,
times as well.
yeah. There's a portion of people
But
that just drop in and they're like, "I'm ready to buy," and you think, "Well,
yeah,
why
and
is
it's
everyone else?
nothing
Why is everyone else not
changes.
doing that?"
Nothing really on the face of it has changed apart from this inner dialogue or monologue, I should say, that you start telling yourself and question yourself some stuff. But if you can show up with that conviction, which will come from the conversations and the reminders and tapping into that positive audience reaction, you'll sell more like on autopilot anyway, because you're just able to use your current client's words to influence your next client.
Oh yeah, it's such a great way of wording it, isn't it? It's so relatable. It was relatable for them. It's definitely going to be relatable for this group of people that you don't even know yet, but they're searching for you. They're just
Mm,
searching for those words. And as soon as they land and they're like, oh my God, he gets it, or God, this is just the person that I was looking for. She seems like she could really help. Then they lean in, then you give them a little bit of value. Some will just book and just buy, but some might just hang around a bit and look and watch, and then they'll be ready to buy. And I think the more you can speed up that process to ready to buy, is that audience, that huge chunk of people that are very qualified but they're not quite ready yet, is to give them a shit ton of value. And I'm a huge believer, and I think we match each other with this, Chris, with like, don't hold it back. Don't hold it hostage. Just get it out there. I see the
mm,
value that you deliver. I'm to say, I just give the value, because it always comes back. And then that's how, for me, I speed up the people who are kind of looking to be more ready by like giving that. And then you can ask more as well. You can make more asks because you're giving so much more value. When it feels pushy for me and a bit salesy is when we're like, well, what's the balance like here? Are you asking, buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff, book the call, book the call, book the call? What are you giving them before
mm.
that? If you're not giving them anything, then yeah, you're going to be asking a lot from your audience and not giving them anything. So it is going to feel a bit squiffy. The balance is going to feel a bit off.
Yeah, 100%. I think I wrote that down as well. People are doing, especially if we look at social selling, because I'm assuming a lot of your audience are going to be in that space. It doesn't
Yeah,
just apply here, but the ask that you make is like, it can't be one, the same all the time, but two, be the ultimate ask. If you only ever show up and you're going, buy my stuff, or more relevant to you and I, book a call, book a call, book a call. It's just that's the equivalent of standing next to one of your mates and going, "I want you to do this. I want you to do this. I want you to do this. I want you to do this." And we've all got that friend who only ever calls when they want something, um, but it's not an ideal situation for them to be in, or yourself. So I think varying the ask as well. You got, is it a give or is it an ask? And also, when it is an ask, how big is that ask? As I say, like, is it just to download something, which is a very, very low ask, low commitment, low risk for the person, or book a call is actually like, it's quite an intrusive ask, because you're
yeah,
going, right, I want you to basically tell me that you're 99% there in terms of wanting to buy. I also want you to give me an hour. I also am potentially asking for like a lot of your time for the next 3 to 12 months. And I'm also going to ask you for some money. Like, you've got to be pretty fucking ready to say yes to that ask. So what are the asks that sit below that, as you rightly said, can nudge people up a notch or two at a time? So
yeah,
that's one mistake. And then the other one that I've written down was that basically trying to sell to people who you have to educate. Because if you look at like the market, and I know there's like the funnel triangle and stuff like that, there's probably only about like 10% or less of your audience who are actually in a position that if you put the right
mm,
offer in front of them, they will buy right now, today, tomorrow, that kind of thing. Whereas like 30%, 40% will never buy. They're just there.
yeah,
And then you've got that middle chunk. At the bottom of that, oh, sorry, the top of that middle chunk are the least aware people. And if you're just chucking the book a call ask in front of them, they'll tune out and they'll drop into like not ever going to buy from you sort of land. So I think it's really, really important to try and just focus on people who are closest to buying
Yeah,
rather than trying to educate people and help them like reinvent the wheel or reshape their thinking. Why focus completely on those where you can just go, actually, I know 10% of these people are almost here. And that's why you as you rightly said, balance is absolutely key. Like some people will respond really well to a big ask, but if you're doing it all the time, no one will respond well to it.
yeah. And actually, I have caught myself with that.
Oh, it's
A
really
few
hard.
times. In fact, I'm going to go back and check my LinkedIn and think, how many times have I put that? I do vary it, but I do ask people to take the next step with me quite a lot. And that next step is booking a call. So, like, this is something I always learn something out of these podcasts or get reminded. That's something I'm going to go and check. So, what are my different asks? Because I'm sat on a lot of asset, and do you know what? I don't use it. I don't use
Mm.
it half as much as what I should. Podcasts, micro teaches, lives that I've done, like mini trainings, lead magnets that are like absolutely gold, that'll tell you exactly where you lost your client, exactly why your content's misfiring. And they're just sat on my laptop. It's probably everybody's probably going, God, yeah, I've got a load of stuff there, of course, like, so let's start using it to help our audience a little bit more. So it's definitely a little bit of a reminder for me there.
Comes back to
Um,
that holding hostage as well, right? Like
yeah.
you don't need to hold the information. Like everything that you and I know is probably out on the internet somewhere in some
Mhm.
regard. It'll be worded differently, it'll be packaged differently. But if it's already out there, who the hell are we to hold on to it? Like, don't.
Yeah.
Would you rather that you hold on to it and ideal client doesn't get it from you, so they find it elsewhere, or would you rather that you were the one that was in front of them delivering that information? I'm guessing it's the second because once you are the one that's delivered the information, who are they more likely to buy from?
Yeah. Plus, it sits in with my mission, and I've got a really, really strong mission to help over 1 million people in my lifetime and my legacy. So even when I'm not here anymore, and I haven't quite figured that bit out, but I know it'll happen. This podcast will be out there, won't it, for like
Exactly.
eternity? But I've got that goal to like help influence over 1 million people in my life to see something more positively different in selling, and then go and sell differently. So like I haven't
Love
got
that.
time to hold stuff back. I don't want to hold it back. It's the opposite of my mission. So this is why I don't find it hard to produce content. I don't find it hard to get things out, because I'm like, let's get to work on this mission.
Yeah.
For me, there's a couple of points that you mentioned here. The first one is about convincing people, because I think I hear this a lot in trainings, like, oh, I feel really pushy and weird, like I'm convincing people to buy. For me, that tells me that you don't think there's a ready to buy audience out there already. Because if there were, you'd be talking to that and not the other people. Don't try and convince the 10%, like let them go, help the 80%. And then, yeah, by proxy, there's just going to be 10% that just drop in, just ready to buy. But
Mm.
like, we don't convince people who are not like actively looking to solve the problem that you are offering to fix. We just don't even write content for them. We don't think about them. We don't show up with them in mind. And I think that's the big mistake that people make. They're like, let me convince everybody that my stuff's really great. And I'm like, you don't have to convince people. Your job and your responsibility as the seller is to show up consistently and keep banging that drum every single day, week, month, about what you do, who you help, how you do it. Get creative in doing that. But we don't have to convince people,
Mm.
that there is an audience already there. What we have to do is get better and better at communicating that value across, getting better and better at describing how it works, the steps people take, who it's for, why it works, all that kind of stuff. So that was like something that came up with what we said about convincing people. Like, just, you don't have to convince them. There's an audience out there already that want what you're selling.
And
They just can't
theoretically, you
see
only
it.
need one client.
Yeah.
Like, not every year, I mean, but if you're getting no clients at the moment, you only need one. You literally only need one, and that can change the whole trajectory for you because that could be the confidence is back up, the convictions back up, could be an
Mm-hmm.
ideal client as well. So that you get better marketing assets. They could also intro you to 10 other people as well. So why are you trying to sell to 10,000? Just try and sell to one.
Yeah, have that person in mind as well when you write your content. Have that person in mind when you
Yeah.
show up. And again, the conviction and that certainty of like who, because you've got them on like here, very connected to people. That's a mistake that I've got written down here is connection. People are not connected to their audience at all. They're just like, oh, I need to do a LinkedIn post because I need to do three a week. Bump, out it goes. Oh, I've got an email list. I should probably do an email. There we go. I'll throw something out. And it's like the words are like might be fine, but the connection for me is your thoughts and feelings about your audience. If you've not got good thoughts about an audience, if you think no one's buying, this isn't useful, nobody wants to do this, no one's got any money, I don't know anyone that could afford 4 or 5 figures, then you can write whatever you want, you can produce the fanciest funnel, you can do whatever, but it's not going to chime. It's going to miss the mark every single time because you're operating on a really outdated belief system. So for me, it's the
Mm.
energy that goes behind your actions. And I have experienced this year where I have like done the stuff and not got anything out of it. And it's because I was doing it from like a lack place, a lack mentality, which is where we ended up talking and meeting and working together. And
Yeah.
after that, like you said, all you need is that little injection of like confidence or vigor, or let's go at it. And again, it just changes everything. So you can do the same stuff, say the same words, but from a different thought, it's going to be very interpreted very differently.
Yeah, people can smell desperation and
Mm,
fear and stuff like that, even through a camera, even through a written paragraph, I
yeah.
believe. And there's no excuse, especially with the people that you sell to. I imagine that they're solopreneurs. They've chosen to go in and do this, whatever they're doing, and run this business model a lot of the time. There's no excuse to not be excited. Like, you chose that thing to sell a lot of the time. If you're the business owner, choose something that you're excited about. And you can like tune out of stuff and lose, I guess, a bit of um enthusiasm, but you can probably find that again it just comes from like, right, being organized, not always putting out fires, and just recognizing that you could be working that job that you were 10 years ago and you really fucking hated that. Like, you have got a choice now. You get to show up with energy. I'd say
Mm,
if you're not showing up with energy, don't show up until you can go and find a source. And that
yeah.
might be something that's not even connected to business. Like, I know when I get tired or whatever, I know I've been missing exercise. I'll just go, have I exercised recently, or have I exercised today? Like, no. Like, that's why you feel like you do. So I will go and do something else that I know will allow me to bring energy back into the room, into the content or whatever. And it's also having control of your environment. Like, there are a number of things I could do right now, and like with you, especially if you were at home or in an office, you can control your whole environment, right? I can choose to put some Adele on if I want on
Mm,
the Amazon Alexa. I can choose to have purple lights come out. I can choose to work in the dark. I can choose to put earplugs in. I can choose to like just drop down and do 20 press ups or 20 squats and just get a bit of an energy boost in. I can ring a mate for 10 minutes and just moan and then go, right, help me solve this problem. There are probably 5 things that every single person listening to this, if they are feeling in a bit of a rut, can go and do straight away that will dramatically improve their energy and the way that they show up within 10 minutes.
yeah,
But no
that's
one does it.
pretty powerful, isn't it? Because it's
Yeah.
easier to delegate this shit to like external stuff. When you take full responsibility for your results, for your thoughts, for what is in your control, I find that is where the game changes for everybody. That like just absolutely hockey sticks your results,
Mm.
because when you're not taking responsibility for things, and it's like, oh, it's the market, it's the time of year, it's just like no one's buying, oh, what can I do, it's not my fault. Well, what can you do, what are you going to do? Because all of that is just your thoughts on that situation. That situation is just neutral, it's just happening, it's just there, but that's not causing your lack of sales, it's your thoughts on that that's causing that. And so what can we do that's like directly in control? So that's why I quite like the circles of control from Covey. What is in your control, what is in
Mm.
your influence, and what's of your concern. And quite often, the concern is the stuff that we focus and worry about. We have absolutely no control over that. And that's what causes a lot of anxiety.
Yeah. And it's
Because we're
directly
looking.
influenced by the other two, though. You just don't realize it.
Yeah, exactly. So we have to go to the areas of control first and then influence. So, yeah, absolutely. Lovely. Okay, then. So, what's next for the sales industry then? Where's it heading? What's going to be happening in the next 5 to 10 years, do you think?
Oh God, I wouldn't even necessarily say I work in the sales industry, but I think AI is going to play a massive factor, which we can talk about in a sec. Obviously, a massive factor. I think trust is at an all-time low,
Yeah, I put that down on my list as well, actually. Yeah, people
and
getting
which is
burnt.
why good, genuine marketing, value driven marketing, and
Mm,
permission based marketing is going to be your key to actually being able to convert people. And not only that, it also makes the conversion 10 times easier.
yeah.
So every platform now is swamped with ads. Everyone's saying the same shit. I heard an interview with someone, I think it might have been Daniel Priestley, where he's like, how funny is it that now, this was a few years ago, everyone's a social media manager or a social media expert. He's like, I predict in 5 to 10 years, which we're in that time now, everyone's going to be some form of data engineer. He didn't know AI was going to come as fast as it had, I don't think, but everyone's an AI expert now. So you keep moving with the times, and I don't know what's going to be next, but I think it's all going to come back, I believe, to the human and the personal touch.
That
Just like
human heart
people
to
are
heart.
dumbifying the phones, they're trying to
Mm,
spend time off social media now because their tolerance is grown so thin to it. They're really not interested at all. It's for some regard. It's just like alcohol is in general. Like the whole world is shifting, and
mm,
the kids that think alcohol isn't cool right now are the ones that are going out and seeking more of an experience.
mm.
And they're going to be the future buyers at the bigger businesses in 10 years' time or whatever. So I think whatever you want to do, the level of personalization probably needs to be increased. I don't know, 10 times what you're doing right now. And I think showing up on video, having conversations, and putting experiences out there that people can actually immersify themselves in. It's like courses. Courses are dead, I think, or they will be very, very soon because it's just information. You
Mm,
need an experience to go alongside that information,
yeah,
um,
yeah,
like in person, on Zoom, whatever. That's why we chose to just start including events.
yeah. Yeah, no, I love that. And actually, I've launched my group behind closed doors so that I can practice and I can get used to facilitating before I put it out as a live offer. And part of me is thinking there's got to be some more of me in this or some more elements that it cannot be transactional because
Mm,
people need that, how do I apply that and how do I do that? And they need some community and they need some help. And one of the things that's coming out of the group is that people feel so isolated and alone and thinking that that is only happening to me. And then when you say, hey, I've got this problem, and everyone's like, oh, me too, me too. And like, oh, I've done this to fix it and I've tried this. It's suddenly you start to think, hang on a second, people have kind of got similar sort of problems here and it's not just me. And there's a really nice community. So I think there's got to be like some additional elements like you say, that give people an experience and help them distill the learning. Otherwise, you can just go to Chat GPT and go, "How do I sell more?" and it will tell you stuff,
mhm,
and you still won't be able to do it because you need to engage like the human element into it. So yeah, I think AI, yes, and I was always a bit of a no to AI until I joined your group and realized that actually technology and scaling and systems and process are actually really, really important. And it will never, ever, ever replace the human brain, but you can use it to your advantage as well. So I've gone from being completely at this end to like just letting it in a little bit and seeing the benefits of it. So I
mm.
think AI is definitely going to play a part, but it will never, you can't replace the human connection and thoughts and experience.
No, I think it's very transactional, like you say. I mean, I watched a video of a guy the other day. He made some sales agent, and he ordered a pizza to his house. It was a fake order, but he spoke to a robot over the phone, gave all his details, like address, order. They ran through the whole menu. So there are use cases for it where it is a transaction. Where I
Mm,
would actually much rather just speak to a robot sometimes. But if I've
mhm.
got a problem or I need some advice, I want to speak to a person, and I want to speak
Yeah,
to a knowledgeable fucking person who shows empathy, who I can give context to, and they have natural reasoning rather than just going down a fucking decision matrix or a decision tree, like
yeah,
with logic running in the background. So yeah, I think just as just as like we've seen in the past, but even more so, the experience that whatever you sell provides, not only like the results, but the feeling
yeah.
is going to cut. People want to feel good while they do shit because the world's moving a million miles an hour. No one can keep up, and I think that's the thing for me. When I buy things now, it's like, if it's not, unless it's something transactional, obviously, but I'm looking for what else am I going to get out of this other than just like, oh, I'll get more leads or I'll learn how to run ads or whatever it is. What else am I going to get? Is there something in there that's going to make me feel good? And are there other people in there? Is community is a big thing, I think, as well.
Yeah, yeah, I really like that. Love it. So, just to wrap up then, have you got a couple of examples that spring to mind, and I'm sure you have, of like the worst example of sales, like either where you've been sold to by someone and it's been awful, or something that you have seen in the sales industry that you were like, oh my God, that's the epitome of everything I don't want selling to be?
Yeah, I've got a pre-sale and a post-sale example, I think.
Yeah, sure.
So the pre-sale is just going through my Instagram. Every ad that I get served with tends to look exactly the same, and this translates to sales massively. And I'll get to that in a sec. But they all say, and that's because I fit this market: are you a coach, consultant, or agency owner trying to or struggling to XYZ? And it's like, that is the worst thing that you can do, is copy other people's, like, especially the hooks. If you
Yeah,
know what one competitor is doing one thing, like, why would you even bother copying it? Just come up with a unique angle. I spent a lot of time trying to do this the other day, coming up with different ad hooks, just the first 3 seconds. And I was in this studio and I wrote the word invite on a piece of paper and I held it up and went, this is your invitation to whatever it was. This is your invite to so-and-so. And then someone just nicked it out of my hand, reached in from the side of the camera. Like, and I just think that's just so, I'm saying the same shit as the other people, but it's just a different frame on it and how you can polish it and make it look better with the packaging. Because ultimately, what everyone sells in one particular industry is pretty much the same.
yeah,
So the worst thing you can do is give yourself like a no head start by being the same as someone else.
yeah, yeah. That's often
That's a big one for me.
a mistake, isn't it? We're like, I'll just sound like everyone else. I'll blend in. I'm like, yeah, then you blend in. You're really vanilla. And why would someone pick you? You just sound like everyone else.
Yeah. So that's one thing. And the post sales thing, oh, there might be two here. One is just buyer's remorse straight away. So I've bought a couple of things over the past 6 months or so where I've been like, should I, shouldn't I? Like, oh, fuck it, go on then, because I do end up splashing money where I probably shouldn't. And then I'll get in to whatever the product or service is, and just straight away, it's been like, the sales happened, money's been collected, I don't care,
Yeah.
from their point of
Well,
view. And
yeah.
you're just like, oh, what happened to all these promises that got made? You know, I've just, this isn't a true example of it, but let's just say I've started working with a video editor and they've promised me all these edits and stuff like that. And now I've got to wait 2 weeks until I can speak to them for the first time to map out the strategy or whatever it is. It's
Yeah.
just like,
Yeah.
what's plugging the gap in between now and then? Nothing. You just fucking sit there and wait for 2 weeks. So that's pretty shit. Um, and the other thing, which was actually a video editor, we were halfway through a project. Someone was doing some short form video editing for me, just like 60-second stuff. They were really good. And halfway through it, we agreed a price per video. And halfway through it, he just doubled his prices.
Oh,
And I'm like, you can do that. Like, that is absolutely fine. That's up to you. But do you think I'm going to appreciate being like strong armed
yeah.
into paying more? And two, like, where's just the gentleman's agreement or whatever, just the agreement that, like, unspoken, just fucking common sense and nicety. So obviously I told him to shove it. And then he was like annoyed. Well, who else are you going to get to do your videos? I was like, literally anyone. Because I'd
Yeah.
much rather have the relationship there and the, like, you might put them up again in a week. I don't know. Like, get to the end of the batch and then go, look, I'm considering, is it okay? What do you think? Would you be open to? Maybe
Yeah.
we
There's
could
a
do it
better
on a
way of doing
sliding
it.
scale.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's almost like, I mean, don't get me wrong, you have the power to change your prices, and most people are charging too little. He certainly was, but midway through a project and just springing it on me, communicated via text, I was just like, oh, fuck off.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on, Chris.
You're welcome. Thanks for
Um,
having me.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. There's been some really good things there that people can get on with from a thought point of view and an action point of view. A few little tasks and exercises throughout there. Tell people, where can they find you?
Uh, every platform, pretty much. Chris James Online, but the main one's LinkedIn. I'd prefer it if you went to YouTube because that's the one I'm trying to grow at the moment. But yeah, just LinkedIn, Chris James Online, or YouTube.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you for your
Amazing.
time, your energy, your insight. And I'll catch everybody on the next episode. Thank you. Thank you for listening to Making Sales Simple, a podcast by Helen Tebay, the sales lady. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and follow me on Spotify for more.